Panama at the time. My father was working construction work at Fort Gulick, and I was going with my girlfriend. I picked her up Sunday morning, and we went shopping and walking around Panama, Cristobal. And when we walked back by the house, her father, it was about 4 maybe in the afternoon, and he called out and said, "Hey, did you hear that Pearl Harbor was bombed?" Where's Pearl Harbor? And so we went down to the top of the YMCA in Cristobal there and watched them black out Cristobal, Colon area. That was quite exciting. And then at that time, I was working for my father on some of the buildings out there. I did the laundry, motor pool, 2 buildings at the motor pool, and 1 supply building that I was 17 years old at the time. My partner that was helping with this, he got called in. He was a lieutenant in the reserves, and he got called in, so left me with the job. But I was able to do it with a couple of Panamanians and a San Blas Indian, and we were able to finish up the buildings real good. And then I didn't really think about going into the military until they shipped us out of Panama back to the States, into Charlotte, North Carolina. And I went to work with Duke Power Company, and I was working with them, it was about 9 months. And then my brother had gone in the Navy, and I went down to Wilmington, and where he was sworn in on the post office steps, and that sort of set me off. But I quit Duke Power and went to work in the shipyard with my father there, and living in a trailer with my mother and father. And we had a unit that they supplied to the ships that they went out, and the chief in charge of that had been a neighbor of mine for, gosh, ever since I was this big. And so I knew him, and I went down, talked to Sailor, and he says, "When are you gonna go in?" And I says, "Oh, I don't know, soon." And it was about, I guess I worked at the shipyard about 9 months, between 6 and 9 months, when I finally decided I want to go in. And so I left the shipyard and had to go up to Charlotte to be able to join the Navy. And I went down and talked to them, and they said, "You're 1A in drafting, so you'll have to go to the draft board." So I went over to the draft board and said, "How can I get in?" They says, "You want to go down tomorrow?" So they shipped me down to Camp Grove, South Carolina, about 45 miles south of Charlotte. And then about halfway through the enlistment, not enlistment, but the draft board, they've had us all lined up and said, "Who wants to go in the Navy? Step 1 foot forward." So there was 6 of us. That was about out of 50 that stepped up, and they sent us in a room next door. We finished up our interview there with Navy doctors. And then it was 3 hours before they were able to find us clothes. They weren't issuing Navy uniforms there. They had to find our clothes so that they could send us home for a week. And then we were caught a bus. Well, due to the fact that there is when I signed up, they says, "Well, you'll have to furnish your transportation back to Charlotte." So I did. Boom. And I stepped out the base, and it was maybe 10, 15 minutes. Somebody picked me up and took me almost to Charlotte. And then I was able to catch a ride on in to Charlotte. My sister lived there then. And so I went out to her place and stayed a whole week before my train came through. What it was a train coming up from New Orleans, and it had stopped in 3 or 4 places and picked up groups of sailors. And finally, we got there about 10 o'clock at night, and it was about midnight before they finally got a bus to take us over to Bainbridge.